Abundance Wala, and you're watching Abundance Show on Global Abundance Organization, GAOTV. And look who's with us today. Anna, how are you?
I'm good, Safa. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you
It's
so much.
great to
And
be
please,
connected with you.
oh, great, thank you. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Ana Rosa. I am Brazilian. I'm 34 years old, and I grew up around the northeast of Brazil. And since already 10 years, I've been living in Germany. And from here, I started a nonprofit organization 6 years ago, more than 6 years ago already. Uh, Meli Bees Network, and that's my full-time job, engaging a network of indigenous leaders or forest defenders, I would say, forest defenders, often from indigenous and local communities.
Okay, we'll take care of forest defenders. Life journey.
Yeah, so I grew up in the northeast of Brazil. I was between the northeast and the north, so the Amazon area. And my parents are from these two regions. Like my father is from the northeast, my mom's from the north. And I grew up kind of in the middle north. So I kind of the north of Brazil is kind of where most of the Amazon region takes place. So probably when you talk about the north of Brazil, we think about the Amazon. And I grew up in this context. My mom comes from an Omágua heritage. So my mom, the side of my mother's family, we are all Omágua. And my father from the northeast coast. My father is an agronomic engineer. So he works with the land, and from a very young age, he brought me in contact with the land and with the bees. He used to work with the bees in the university in Piauí, also in the northeast of Brazil. And that's kind of how I got first in contact with these stingless bees. They are native to all tropical and subtropical regions across the globe.
Wow, that's amazing. You're quite an indigenous lady with indigenous mind, and you're very well knit too, and you glued to your land. That's amazing. That's one should be. Okay, I believe that our limit of our curiosity is our is the limit of our minds. So, what was the point of time when you dedicated yourself? You decided to dedicate yourself, your time, and efforts, and everything to defending the forest. What was that?
I mean, since a very young age, that was very clear for me. So my father was always an environmentalist. And so this is a value that guide me from a very young age. I mean, I grew up going to the farms, kind of to the land, to the rural areas. My father used to work also with rural communities, and yeah, so I would be with him around these places. And in 2017, more or less, when I was already living in Germany, I started a podcast. Actually, the reason so I kind of connect with you a little bit, Safa.
Uh,
I was kind of still kind of on the start of my journey, and for me, it was very clear. I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and I was at the same time kind of missing um, to talk in my own language because I was talking in English and German the whole time, and I was like, come on, I need to. I was feeling like, okay, I'm just stopping too much to speak Portuguese, and I wanted to get back. And I started a podcast back then, apenas due to an indigenous language, the G indigenous language, that means tomorrow. So the idea of the podcast was to think on the tomorrow we want to build. And during this podcast, actually, I brought one indigenous leader, Bipunu Kayapo, while he was in Europe. So he was in Europe. I organized a bunch of calls for him in Germany with the German leftist party, German Green Party of the region, with the Brazilians in Germany, in Cologne, in Düsseldorf. So we had quite an intensive agenda while he was here. And in one of the evenings, he was in my house, and I mentioned him the interest. That was kind of I wanted to check if he would also be interested on bees, on stingless bees, on kind of skull context. So we started this conversation literally at my place in my sofa. Well, and then he went back to his community after uh, a while, and he sent me a picture with a meeting that he organized, and he said everybody here wants to also to do a work on with bees. Can you support us here? So I kind of went back to my podcast that I had already started, and I did a crowdfunding. That's actually bring me to a very close moment because I'm doing a crowdfunding again. Actually, the second crowdfunding. I haven't done anything in between. So, yeah, so we did a crowdfunding in 2019, in August, summer 2019. And then we did our first activity of what was going to be Meli because it was just starting, right? We did first a group of Kayapop people. So there were Bepunu, Payaka, and another guy, an elder, came to the city, had a workshop to learn about stingless bees in Marabá, where I used to live. Marabá is in the same state as Pará, so it's in the countryside of Pará. Pará is the state where COP took place last year, so the Amazon area. And that was the first activity of what was going to grow to be Meli. After that, my mom, of course, was very proud of me, and she was showing a few friends. In one of these days, she showed a friend. She was kind of giving a course with indigenous school in the Gaviões territory, my Maria territory, and she showed Tuxati, who is an indigenous leader from the Gaviões people. And Toshachi looked to my mom and asked, "Okay, when are you going to have? When is she going to do the same in our territory as well?" So that's kind of how I felt the very clear desire of other indigenous leaders of other communities to also do similar activities. And was in this moment that was 2020. It was the start of 2020, short before COVID took place. And also January 2020, we also went ourselves. I was like, we were a group of 3 people in the Kayapó territory, also to further work with the bees there. After that, COVID came. I guess everybody imagine how was COVID at that time. And yeah, so this time with COVID was very exhausting, but was also a very good moment to get together. A lot of people online, a lot of forest defenders working online, talking with each other and thinking about the ideas about what do we want to do. Was a very clear desire in the communities to continue similar work. And that's what we've done. So in the end of 2020, I officially started Meli here from Germany. There was a lot of, I move back to Brazil and start there or still stay here. So there was a lot of things, a lot of thought in the process. But I stayed here in Germany, and Meli is a German organization. And I'm glad we did so because we also connected more and more with other indigenous communities across the globe, but mainly in Latin America, in other countries in Latin America. So a few years ago, I met Laura, who is my colleague. We direct Meli together. She brought strongly the guys from Mexico to our network, and we hope very soon to do quite a lot of activities in Mexico. So yeah, I guess I gave you already quite a big background on how it happened. Let me know if there was anything unclear.
You're also firing me up, and you're putting rockets into me for. What you are doing is raising. I love to raise fund, and I would want you to take us a care of 10 and teach us fundraising one, and teach us podcasting, and then you already love nature. You're a nature lover, and you're working for your indigenous plants and the species, the rare species of the plants. And I would want you to tell us, how can I contribute, or my community can contribute to whatever you are doing? So we'll start from podcasting. So since this is what I mean, I'm learning podcasting, and it's been like more than 1 year. It's like 18, 19 months. I'm learning podcasting. Podcasted more than 350 people now, like yours, people like yourself,
Wow.
and I'm learning. And I
Wow.
suppose when I suppose when I get 1,000 podcasts, then probably I'll be learning ABC of podcasting. So show me, please tell me about podcasting, fundraising, and your love towards nature. Three questions on
Wow.
one tornado. Back to you.
Okay. Oh, wow. So first of all, podcasting. Okay, I need to remember the three, but podcasting for me was something very organic. So I really started podcasting like, okay, I want to talk. I was feeling that I had something to say. I was getting a lot of contacts living in Europe. I was meeting a lot of people. And then I wanted to first share with my friends and with the people that I knew from in Brazil. So my podcast was in Portuguese. And at the same time, when I did something for the Brazilians, I most of my audience was in from the southeast, so mainly São Paulo. And then actually was the opposite. There was the moment that I thought, actually, it's not that my communities wanted to hear about São Paulo stuff or New York or Berlin. They the people from São Paulo were interested on hearing from the communities in the Amazon that I grew up with. So that was the most interesting part for them. So the videos, the podcasts that I did with the communities were the ones who raised more attention. So this is the first thing, the first learning, I would say. And okay, and nature, contact with nature. I think I've forgotten the second one.
Three things. One,
So what was the second question?
fundraising, podcasting, and
Fundraising,
your
fundraising.
yeah.
So podcasting, I think I gave the overview. So I do think back then also we had not so strong
I am
podcasts in
still,
Brazil.
my appetite for podcasting is still thirsty. I would ask questions when you're finished. Okay, now to fundraising.
Mhm. No, okay. I can also mention, so podcasting back then in Brazil was a little bit, it was still starting, so I could get in space that I wouldn't get nowadays. Like nowadays, Brazilian podcast is a much higher level than it was back then. So that also comes, yeah. And then fundraising. So as I mentioned, most of we do the biggest amount of fundraising we do is with one big donor. So we do work a lot, kind of, we look for donations of partners. So we have a couple of foundations we work with. And that's literally the second time I do crowdfunding for real. So that reminds me of this time of the podcast as well, because the podcast doesn't exist anymore since around 6 years, because I had to focus at Meli. And yeah, so fundraising to the communities is a little bit, there's a lot to say on when we talk about funds, uh, even about kind of, okay, what does that mean? What's the value? Because very often what I feel is that most of the value is still with the communities and the access they have to the seeds, to the knowledge. There's so much that they give that people don't put a financial tag, price tag. So, and then we think that we are giving money to them. But actually, much more of the work that I do is not related necessarily with send money. It's much more about bringing this knowledge together, bringing this cohesion together, bringing this exchange within one another. So that's my biggest topic. Yeah, I would say. And the third point was on the connection with nature. Yeah, I mean, as I said, I grew up connected with, like, kind of course, I grew up in the city. And that's also interesting because when we think about the Brazilian Amazon, you also need to remember it's a very different forest than we have in Germany. Like in Germany, you don't really have wild animals. Oh, I used to live in the countryside, and once I saw a pig, kind of a wild pig, and I was afraid. But like in Brazil, you see jaguars, and you see like you don't go to the forest for a walk. You don't go, yeah, literally, you don't go out for a walk in the forest unless you do with a group prepared and so on. Most of the times, you just yeah, you go to the forest. You even if you live in the forest, you you are careful. You respect the forest more than you don't. So yeah, so that's a kind of at the same time, and that kind of comes the interesting parts, because then if I think about my grandfather, he would spend days in the forest because he had a knowledge that I don't have. And there's also something, even my mom doesn't have this knowledge anymore, on really what can you eat from the forest, what you shouldn't eat. There are some little things that you should be aware, kind of generally, okay, if there's a too bright color, you don't eat, um, things like that. But like, I don't think I would be able to spend days in the forest like my grandfather did. And that, I think it's a shame. I uh, I do think it would be important for us to get reconnected. At the same time, I have a couple of biology friends who still work quite a lot inside the forest. So maybe I should also learn with them. I don't know.
Oh wow, oh wow. I mean, your grandfather has a wisdom that could not maybe trickle down towards your parents and to you, as you say that he has the wisdom and knowledge to live in the forest. And g- g- what was that?
My grandfather, and my grandmother, my grandparents, and my mom, they were, my mom was born and raised, so all my family, my on my mother's side, was born and raised in a region called Alto Solimões. The Alto Solimões is the border between Brazil, Colombia, and Peru. And this is a very dangerous region due to, or complex region, let's say, let's very complex region nowadays, or also a decade ago, due to the cocaine production. So it is the reason why my grandparents had to leave, because of the, okay, we don't want to live in fear. And at the same time, it's also a region full of forests. When you go, we come by plane, you just see the forest everywhere. If you're coming from Manaus, Manaus is the capital of Amazonas, of the Amazonas state. You take over a day to go to the, it's like more 30 hours to go to the city of one of my cousins. And then need to take around 8 hours further to visit my other parts of the family. So yeah, and all these days in the fastest boat. You can also take weeks on the slow boat. But yeah, if you take the fast boat, you take a bit over a day. So that's the context of my family, where we come from.
Okay, now back to fundraising. You know, asking for money is something which I mean it's nobody loves to ask for money. What was the inner mountain that you have conquered, and what are the inner the fear or the self doubts that you could clear them for making yourself prepared for fundraising? And number two, what is crowdfunding?
Yeah, so interesting. So the first I did it with for me, the first time I did crowdfunding was with the podcast. So that was in Brazil. So it was mostly in Brazil. Uh, we raised short under 10,000 reais back then. That would be less than 2,000 euros now. And but that time for me was quite the first time doing that. I was quite happy. Uh, but at the same time, I was very exhausted. So for me, to be honest, that was a big outcome of my podcast. For me, was a little bit, okay, people are engaged enough that they they also want to bring this knowledge of the bees, strengthen this knowledge of bees, and strengthen the activities of the Kayapo community working with bees. So that was this at that moment. I was also, for me, it was also a moment where I was learning which direction I want to go. And so that moment during the podcast time, so for me, that crowdfunding is really putting people together and strengthening, getting together with a goal. In that case, was the goal of beekeeping. And yeah, last year I do think it was kind of super. We did a lot with beekeeping, and yeah, this year that I'm doing quite a different how to say, crowdfunding, because I'm doing match funding. So we are working with, we are doing, like, everybody is, I can post on the chat, everybody is working with I'll just, everybody's putting some money there, but this money is going to be multiplied by the platform. So that's quite exciting, and also exciting how this platform is going to do. So they are not just going to double the amount of money we raised, but they are doing kind of quadratic. So basically so that not just people with one big donor put everything. So they do the quadratic, the square, quadratic of the amount of each donation. So if we raised, if 10 persons give €1, and one person gives 10, the €1 is going to be more valid than the 10 from, if it's going to be the same amount, or kind of, not exactly. It's going to, like, it's going to be easier for smaller amounts to be more representative than one big amount, in short.
Okay. What is your moonshot? What's your big dream?
I want to strengthen indigenous leaders, indigenous and local leaders. So that's what I work for. And I want to strengthen, not necessarily for them to leave their territory. I want to strengthen them so they can continue, they can have the option of staying in their territory. At the same time, I also want to strengthen their voices. Last year, we released 6 books written by indigenous women, and that was very inspiring for me. I can also share a bit of these books. But yeah, so that's my big dream, that we have more authors, we hear more indigenous peoples, we understand more about their reality, we understand the diversity of different lifestyles, that we don't need to always do the same thing. We have many different perspectives to see the world, and they all should be accepted. We don't need to everybody be running like a mouse. We have the options of just choosing our priorities in life and choosing how we want to live and what we want to value.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You cannot beat the local talent. I also believe in so. When did this idea came into your? When did you first thought about this? Uh, knows every knowledge, wisdom. Wisdom is something that travels hard. It's like from one generation. Probably it's in the DNA. Indigenous idea hit your head.
It was very organically, actually. Like, to be honest, even that kind of also comes to my childhood in a way. Like, my grandma always made clear we had indigenous heritage. We were of indigenous heritage, but very vague. And so I didn't start Meli like, oh my God, I need to strengthen indigenous people. I brought Meli thinking more like, okay, we want I was in the global north, and I was seeing how distant and were this kind of, how this philanthropic work between countries was not really how it should be. and was not really effective. So my perspective was first to simply build this bridge and to build more effective international cooperation. So that was my first thought. And I want to do that with the indigenous and local communities that I already had contact with. And took me a while, as kind of, I would say it was a journey of discovery myself, to go back to my mom's family. As I said, I grew up outside of the territory, even though I was in the Amazon area, I was in the city, and going back to meet my relatives and actually see that my cousins were the leaders of the Omágua people, and to see everybody knew that my family was Omágua, but not me. And so it was kind of a process, and that moment, this very personal moment, helped me to see also many moments in between, that I saw how this connection with the indigenous leaders and nature, and this connection is not, doesn't come from nothing, right? If you talk with indigenous leaders, you see how deeply connected and how deeply they don't look away, they look deep to nature. They pay full attention to nature. And these characters brought me, okay, that's how we should do. We really should learn with nature, but it's not, oh, like we need to understand nature-based solutions, how deep and how strongly profound this idea is. So when we think about nature-based solutions, it's the way to go, but the ones who best share the best methodologies to do this action of nature, of understanding nature, so we can build nature-based solutions, are the indigenous leaders. And I saw that very clear in our network, even within the interactions. And this, because of this background, this connection with nature, the decisions they were presenting, the solutions they were presenting to us were incredible, like were really amazing. And I was like, okay, that's what we need to foster. So that's kind of what we continue fostering and kind of continue. That's how Meli started. So I see that we need to support them to reach some places. I do agree, to support them to bring their voices. I'm very excited. Next week, I'm going to EMRI, the Expert Mechanisms on Indigenous Peoples, in Geneva. And we are bringing a few letters from the indigenous leaders in our territory. And I find that very amazing, very exciting. Yeah, so that's kind of what I want to do, is actually strengthen their voices, strengthen these multiple indigenous leaders, and not only as kind of a romanticized version of a person, but really as a full person, that has, like, a few weeks ago, I was sharing the story written by Marciane Kokama in the Brazilian embassy in Berlin. And that was for me a very, very inspiring moment, when I saw like hundreds of people in one space to listen to a story written by an Omágua cacique, and one Omágua leader. Yeah, that was very beautiful. And she has a name. She's not an object. She has a name. She has a wisdom, and she has, something to give. So she's not good just because she's Omágua. She's good because she has something to share.
My goodness, you are such a treasure of. More I'm listening to you, more I'm getting curious. You talk about one topic. It's an entire podcast. Fundraising itself is podcast, and and then crowdfunding is very typical. And then you talk of the folk wisdom, and then you talk about your love towards nature, and everybody taught leadership. You're the first who digital leadership. So, and there are, we can talk about sustainability, about carbon capturing, about the climate change, that we are having cloudburst, there are droughts, drowning, or in water or of drought they are dying. So there's a lot that you are doing and a lot of things are there, but I have already hit my time limit. So well, I'll discuss all these things in our next podcast. So lastly your message to the planet.
Wow. Okay, that was fast. So thank you very much for reaching out. So the message I leave here is, wow, I wasn't expecting to already um, support the really the solutions that are taking care of you. So value what's really taking care. Today I had a call with a Kokama leader, and then he told me, "Hey, we are doing that not for ourselves, but we are doing to to for the care of the world, and we know that even if they are not aware of it." And that was for me kind of because he did something with very concrete, like of the care of one very clear activity he was doing, and like saying how he was moved about to continue doing that as a perspective of his that's something much bigger than him. And for me that was very beautiful. So yeah, so listen to these people. It's that's kind of what I can share. Kind of reach out, please reach out to me on LinkedIn, Facebook. Well, not Facebook, but well, Zatar has my contacts. We have a website. You can check some of our activities, our perspectives, how we work in these three different layers, engaging the communities, engaging their community-led solutions, and engaging the international awareness, the international cooperation. Thank you very much, Safar.
Thank you so much, Anna. We keep reaching out each other. We have just COVID, and this is the best thing we make this world a better place. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Stay blessed.